Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second session of Mornings at Gyanama. And today, me and Nadia were just talking about astrology. We are both enthusiasts of this ancient wisdom and science. And we've realized that we have polar opposite signs in our moon. And we've realized also how that has been playing out in our dynamic as mirrors. So, to do a little bit of context, I have moon in Capricorn, and Nadia has moon in Cancer. So, in the axis, we represent different polarities. And the other day, Nadia sent me a text explaining a little bit how she perceives the emotional world and how that landscape is the polar opposite to mine. And so I really wanted Nadia to share a little bit about her landscape in Cancer, moon in Cancer, and then I will share my perspective, and we will continue on that, elaborate on that.
Good morning. So the moon is about feeling. It's about the deepest inner emotions. It is about our feeling world. So having the moon in Cancer and also my rising sun ascendant is in Cancer. Cancer is all about feeling. It's all about emotion. It's water. It's a water sign. It's deep. It's very, the feeling world is very profound. So the other day, I wrote a message to Salomé explaining how I keep an emotion library. I have emotions, I experience emotions in terms of color, texture, smell, if they're dense or where in the body I feel them, if they're hot or cold, the temperature. So there's different emotions, and I kind of have a data bank and library of emotions. And when I experience in my daily life, because we were talking about one particular emotion that came up or something that happened, a story that happened, and not to tap into the story, it is the emotion behind that story, which I knew that I have experienced this very same emotion before. And that's something that I've described to Salome, and she was amazed at it. And it's just something that Cancerians, we feel very deeply. And it's all about emotions, which is a blessing and it's a curse at the same time. Depends how you're dealing with it. So how did you react to that? My explanation of the emotions.
Yes, so I remember.
How did the Capricorn in you react to it?
Yeah, the first reaction was out of like dismay, like I was completely surprised. And the second one that came up was curiosity. I wanted to understand, I wanted to analyze, I wanted to like almost drink from your emotional library, because my emotional library is is pretty simple. It's pretty, I would say, rudimentary in a way. I also feel there's work to be done, and this, even if we do have this influence of the moon in a particular sign, I do feel that we can tap into other energies, we can play with it, and it's a work in progress. So I was born with this influence, and the landscape of the Capricorn when it comes to to emotions is emotions are fragile. Emotions are to be felt safely in a container, but then in the outside world we don't want to deal with emotions. We want to stay focused and in action. So there's more this masculine, I feel like, approach to emotions. There's of course also a lot of solidity, because the Capricorn energy does not feel so comfortable with the emotional landscape. So it tries, I feel the unhealthy part of the Capricorn is to suppress or repress. But also when we start to integrate and understand that, then it can actually evolve onto something. Oh, hello, Napoleon. It can definitely evolve onto something that allows one to analyze, to dissecate the emotions and start to understand. But it's more of a, I feel like it's more of an exercise that comes from the brain and less from the heart. Yeah.
I feel like when we talk about things, what the healed Capricorn, I feel safe around the healed Capricorn because I feel a certain appreciation. She also wants to talk about her emotion. An appreciation because I feel the Capricorn lacks that deep emotional space. So there can also be a love for it. There can also be like an appreciation for the other's deep landscape. But there could be also judgment. So it depends. And the same with the Cancerian, that mind oriented, that coldness also that the Capricorn can have, but it's also something which is very focused, it's very to the point. The Cancer can look at it with a judgment of saying this person is cold, but can look at it also with, oh, this person stays put together even if there's emotional situations. And the unhealed Cancer totally dissolves in feelings. Incapacitated by the feelings. It still happens to me, or actually it happens in a way more to me now. I'm deeper in my emotion because it's something which in our society or the Western society is not appreciated, that deep emotional state. So I have learned throughout my socialization and education and being in the social and cultural context of Switzerland, Western Europe, I've learned to suppress that. So I didn't really have access to it, but they still ruled my world. I just didn't know what to do with them. So now, over the last 10 or 15 years, I have allowed it more. And in India, it just, everything has been accelerated. So I have a very deep connection to my own emotions. But sometimes they derail me and against my better discernment, against my better knowledge. So it's very interesting to see how, like when we start to have an appreciation of our own inner landscape, or we start to accept that inner landscape, we can also accept the others' inner landscape, and we actually can go into a mutual appreciation because the way I see it, I can help Salome to go deeper into the emotion, and she can help me to stay focused, even so if I'm in an emotional state or, that type of energy. There's nothing wrong with the Cancerian way of experiencing it or the Capricorn way to experience it. It is, the toxic or the healed side. And it's also about when we judge ourselves, and we do not ourselves, when you, for example, say, oh, I cannot feel and this is so bad, you go into judgment towards the other as well. Then you start to judge the others too. And the same with me, I judge my own feelings so much, and I didn't really, well, never mind. I never acknowledged them, but I also didn't accept and definitely didn't embrace them. So this whole feeling world, our inner feeling landscape is so different for everybody. And it helps to understand. And that's a process I'm actually going through for the last maybe year or 1.5 more deeply, is to understand that I'm actually not like everybody else. That I start to have, I think everybody's just like me, experiencing everything like me. Even so, in my brain, I know it's not like that in my mind, but it is true, we do not see the world through the same glasses. We do not experience it the same way. we do not see it, not to feel it the same way. When we synergize that, it can be very beneficial for the other too. And if we judge it, we can go into a toxic cycle. So astrology can help us know who we are, and not to stagnate in who we are. Then it shows us what our predisposition is, and from that predisposition we can evolve.
Definitely. I really feel that with when I started to come into contact with this ancient knowledge of astrology, and when I started to also integrate with, it's a process, it's a step-by-step process, but going a little bit past just the basic natal chart, but start to feel the energies. And this is in theory should be not so comfortable for a Capricorn moon, but when I start to play with the emotions and start to put names to it, this was actually something that was a big transformation in my understanding of my inner landscape, was when I started to label each emotion. I remember for the longest time in my life, I just have like this basic vocabulary of, you know, being happy, sad, I could not, I remember vividly not being able to distinguish rage from anger. To me, they were the same. Or, for example, I associated excitement with happiness, and not, it's not the same. I was not aware of the difference between joy and bliss, for example. Like, all these things to me were all under the same category of like happy state or sad state, like the all or not nothing approach. It's as if I had two crayons, the white and the black, and there was no shades of gray in between. And the moment first I started to recognize that there was a gap there that I was not exploring, that there was more to be said and done and felt in my emotions and feelings, and how they could actually allow me to tap into the observer, so get out of the story behind the emotion, let it pass, open myself up to it, knowing that I'm not also defined by that emotion and that feeling that comes in the present but does not need to stay in the future nor in the past. When I started to allow that to happen, was like a big breakthrough in my life. And suddenly it I I felt more and more, I started to feel more empowered in the world of feelings and emotions. But before, I was a victim to my feelings and emotions because I could not understand them. And to me, that big haha moment came through astrology and having a mirror, having my polar opposite in the representation of Nadja. So I really feel that there's so much magic to that, and to kind of like understanding how people in our lives can also be our biggest expanders when it comes to self-realization, self-knowledge, and self-growth, really.
There's such a big fear in a society about feelings, or in the Western society, there's such a big fear about it. It's like losing control. We are not conditioned to feel, and that because we are suppressing it, we actually become victims of our emotion, because we still act upon it, but we do not realize that we have them. So by actually feeling into it and allowing it to come up, it's hugely empowering as well. There's such a fear of feeling the raw and the ugly, because it's like an abyss sometimes. It's like an abyss, you look down and you don't know how deep it goes. And it can, in my case, it can really consume you. Of course, also sometimes it's important to you know, to have a stable surrounding. You cannot always disintegrate in any context. So sometimes it's also important to wrap it up, or to have a safe container to actually live the emotions, because to be able to go through that shock to the system of actually living the emotion, the first time or the first few times, you don't know what's happening to you. So you need that safe container of somebody who's traveled those emotions before, or knows how to hold space. That can be a good friend, that can be a teacher, that can be a guide. It helps to have somebody around who has traveled that before. It's just so sad how this is not accepted to show in publicly how we really feel, and then all this suppressed and fake fake body language that does not fit the words, because in the body language we express it, it still comes out, we have it in our aura. And then if we are not living according to what we feel, there is like a dissonance if somebody is clear sentient and feels the emotions, which all of us are when we tune in. The more we feel into our emotions, the more clear sentient we become. And then you have this dissonance with the person you speak to, because you receive the body language, you receive one message, and the words is another message. So that can be a cognitive dissonance, which is very stressful, which can be very stressful. So I really advocate for, you know, living in truth, even if it's an ugly truth, even if you're angry, even if you are enraged, you need to express it. You need to live it. You need to go through it. Otherwise, it's in a hidden. It is, and then it helps to understand the concept, like astrology helps to understand why certain things are the way they are. And it's like detective work. It is so beautiful when you go deeper into astrology, or deeper into any kind. It can be human design as well, or even any kind of landscape, explanation of the landscape. That helps the mind to understand. And that helps the person very often to feel safer to tap into it, because the mind can understand better. I need that too, because sometimes I just, you know, like, it's just like a disintegration, and I feel, what is going on now? And why? Also, sometimes I don't know why I'm having these emotions, you know? You don't always need to know why. It's important just to go in and to feel it, not connected with the story, but to actually feel it. So being a Cancerian, I had to learn that my emotional landscape is extremely complicated and extremely diverse, and very much in detail. There's a lot of nuances, but I do not have the words for all of those emotions that I feel at all. I feel the emotions. Our emotional landscape is beyond our vocabulary that we have in any language.
Yeah, I actually I feel that the emotions, they associate better with images, or like even archetypes, than language, spoken words. I feel, and to me, I really love words, spoken words, written words. It's the world of the mind for me, that really gets me. But when I connect to the emotions and the feelings, it's the images that do that translation better for me. I uh, I'm opening myself up to journaling, because this was actually something that I also understood, that I had a big block writing about emotions. I can write about um, stories, things, knowledge, but when it comes to translating the emotion into the written words, and doing that as a therapy, as a form of therapy, journaling, I've realized that there was some block, and I'm trying to reach to the bottom of it and understanding if that really comes from my Capricorn moon, or if it's an emotional block that I have there, an energetic block. But it was funny. Now I understand also that I'm getting a little bit better, so that block is alleviating. But I'm curious, Nadia, for you, and knowing a little bit of your story, um, and understanding that there is like this almost like there's not a clear permission for one to feel in our society is built in the Western world. How did you start to work with that and understanding that, okay, like I have this emotional complexity and density, the world is trying to correct me, or like the impulses I get and the rules of society are not honoring that emotional landscape. How, like, if you were to describe it in a step-by-step process, like how did you go about that?
In a step-by-step process, I need to start with saying that feelings is not the same as emotions.
Uh-huh.
The emotions that are actually what you say, there is like a global word for it, like anger is an emotion. Emotions is what a little child can feel. I don't know by heart, but it's anger, joy, play, those things, laughter, and all those that the overgroups are emotions. It's actually more feelings that so the emotions, I've always been very emotional, even though I try to suppress it because of society. But when my spiritual journey restarted, I started before and then stopped. And when I went into it again, my teachers, like always pointed out, that I could not feel. I was trusting the emotions. So I had these groups, like I was experiencing, for example, anger, but I could also not differentiate. And I was very much in the story of things as well. So I started to tap into it with the help of my teachers, with deep meditations, being guided. And I realized it had a lot to do with trusting the person who is holding the space of how deep I can go. So only when I trusted somebody, I could actually go deeper. And the big jump happened to me when I came to India, because India is such a polar opposite of the Western conditioning that it cracked me open. It's like everything became more intense. And I didn't have to do, everything that I kind of started to open up and really did work a lot on it. I did feeling exercise a lot over years. And I could, for example, not cry in front of others. I could not, but inside I was tormented by the depths of my feelings and emotions. I just could not show them publicly, and I was frozen because my trauma response is freeze. My main trauma response is freeze. So I had to defrost first. But India is like, not just because of the temperatures here, but it really got me into it triggered me in such deep points that it's like a volcano came up, and not just the feelings and the emotions came up, but also deep old patterns of, sometimes it helps to step out of your own bigger cultural conditioning to actually see it better. And because India is so polar opposite in everything, I started to see my own conditioning more, and there's a lot of pain coming up. And also the misogyny of India, which is very prevalent and is not seen by many, even in modern India, showed me how hidden misogynist we actually are in Europe. There's a lot of hidden, and a rage came up against the masculine, which I'm still dealing with. And I had a lot of experiences here as well, which show me that there's something to be healed inside of me, because I used to be very positive towards the masculine. I was very I was always saying in spiritual settings as well that I was very, I didn't have a problem with that. It was like, oh, I don't know what you guys have. What are you talking about? This kind of hautaine, like this kind of, I don't have this problem. What are you talking about? And then coming to India and realizing how much triggered I am by it. And trigger always means that there's something unhealed within me, that I go into resonance. And then also realizing that I've been, excuse the language, but bullshitting myself, because wow, it's been there, it's also happening. It's just more hidden. And then tapping into, the danger then is that you go into this total anti something, which I do realize that I'm going through this process now. But if I'm not going through this process, I will never be able to heal it. I didn't even know that it was something I had in me. So India rips you open. It's like, it's an acceleration of everything. The good and the what you might not want to deal with. And that what happened to you as well, no?
It's a crash course
India
into
and I triggered a lot in you.
Definitely, definitely. I remember when I came to India, and it's funny, you pointed out, and it's very important that this stays in video, because when I hopped on that plane from Portugal to India, I did not know what was the difference between an emotion and a feeling. I still to this day, it's not so clear to me. I know that there's still some level of confusion. Also, a big part of that, and I really want to draw some attention to this, I feel comes from the fact of I was completely out of body. And I don't know if this also plays a factor with my moon in Capricorn, but I understand that my default mode is being in the head. And of course, also that is glorified in Western society. But as a clear contrast, when I stepped into India, I was forced to kind of like live and react to the world in a different way, which was more of a responding to emotions. And emotion is energy in motion, etymology of the word. And it's true, I felt that my big process with India was getting back in the body and kind of like reacting to how a place, a person made me feel. So this was a big process. And I even feel that if we were, of course, to oversimplify but analyze it in a more distant way, I feel that India still brings one to the heart, whereas like more Western society brings one to the mind. And of course, with all things, really, the true blessing is in the middle. So it's not rejecting the mind, but also not rejecting the heart, and leading from the heart, the open, pure heart, but also using that mind um, to plan, to act, to strategize, to even like anticipate some things, but also not getting too trapped in it, in the expectation, in the stories we tell ourselves. Um, so I really feel, for me, India brought a lot of wisdom, a lot of richness when it comes to the understanding my body, exactly what happens in the body, the emotions, the feelings, how I experience different sensations. This was another a big also discovery for me, was the world of sensations, because as I was only in my head, I was unable to perceive things. I was not connected to my senses. And even what you touched upon briefly, the fact that I was dismissing my intuition, the clear signs I was receiving from the world. And when I was face to face with people, and I was getting these mixed signals, even in the West, I was, because I was not understanding the response my body was giving to me, and I was even dismissing it, my nervous system would get completely overactivated, almost like in it's not safe, it's not safe, and almost like in loops, circular loops. And it was really, really burdensome, and I would get a lot of times overwhelmed from all the mixed signs and from really not understanding what was happening to me and to my body, and why my life was a certain way.
It's extremely like when you tap in, when you tap into this, it's like a seismograph, no? You then your whole subconscious goes like it's you're tapping in and you're trying to read the room, and something else gets spoken to you, and you go like, but this is not what I'm receiving, which is also a childhood thing when you grew up in a setting that you need to tune into, because it's not everything clear the way it gets spoken. It doesn't necessarily mean that's the vibe that's really prevalent is what's spoken. There's other vibes around. That it can actually become a talent of tapping into that, but it's a very, very exhausting talent. Personally, privately, I want to spend my private time with people who are genuine. It doesn't matter if the emotions or the feelings or whatever, or the behaviors are not exactly up to my liking. I prefer it than to get a message, a spoken message, or like an acted, like somebody acts in a certain way, but I feel all this this in-between emotions. I'm a detector for that. I'm a lie detector. I see exactly what's going on, you know? So it is very exhausting for my system. And then also trying to fit into society, it's very exhausting for my system to pretend I believe what is being said.
Yeah.
Very exhausting. I just don't want to go back there. I don't mind doing that for business purpose. I mean, like other business persons, not in the spiritual realms, you know, sometimes I do not have to go as deep. But within the private, the people I choose to spend my time with, I choose not to go into that anymore, or only in a very limited way. There's always, you know, when I feel in somebody that there's the willingness to grow beyond, because we've all got our black spots, then that's something else. But it's just something that I don't want to really tap into anymore. It exhausts me beyond measure. It really exhausts me, and it exhausts me when I feel about myself that I tap into that because I want to, you know, I need to adjust to a certain behavior, or I tap into that. We have all learned that. We have all been conditioned that way, you know. We've all been conditioned that way. And just something I want to quickly touch upon, what you mentioned about the heart and the mind, you know, of India and Europe. I feel that when people listening to us, that there is a judgment, you know, in the heart and the mind, and it's I know that you do not mean it that way, so that's why I just want to emphasize on that and it's also with the Capricorn and the Cancer. It's not about judging what is better and what is worse. If something is prevalent and we are not aware of it, if it's just a cultural conditioning, if it's just an unconscious acting upon what is being done in the environment, that is something which is very, it's vulnerable to hijacking and to, like, you can be manipulated in that. For example, just to clarify what I mean, during the pandemic, there was a big, how can I say, intention. There was a big intention to cause fear in the population, to make people adhere to the measurements, to make people do, it's mass manipulation happened. It was very interesting for me to see from my geographical position in India, what the fear mongering in India was more about family. It was very much in the family system. It was less coming from the government. It was more within the family system, like you need to wear the mask, you need to get vaccinated because your grandmother might get sick, or if you do not adhere to the rules, your family system, or it was all this family. It was this big propaganda, like if the youngsters do not adhere to the rules, then the grandmother might die. Duck, you know, grandmother, family, oh my God, I'm a murderer. Hard family. In the West, it was more coming from the government. It was about losing the job, one could not participate in society, because also in the West, we are more individualized, we are more separated. We live in like, a lot of people live alone or in small apartments. So due to the lockdown, people were very isolated, and then the fear of social, you know, also like the participation, social participation, and the fear of losing one's job, career, prospects, made people, you know, there was a manipulation, made people follow the rules. And here there wasn't really so much about the job world or the social interaction. It was more the opposite. People live in you know, in many people in the same house. And due to the lockdown, there was too many people in the same house because nobody was going out and working. So it was a total opposite situation. And that was very interesting for me to notice where the actual hook is and where the wound is, where you can get people. And it doesn't matter if your wound is in the mind and in a career or in the family. It is about knowing that this is yours, that this is your, you know, your vulnerable point.
Mhm.
And that's, yeah, that's what I feel is very important, in that it's not a judgment to, there's not a judgment about it, but the heart-centeredness can also be, and also my emotional deep thing, I can also go into, lose, I can, with my deep emotionality, I can also lose track of reality. I can lose focus. I can get sidetracked. I can get manipulated through emotion. I don't care what people think about me anymore, but I do care about people's emotions. You know, I do care. I do not want to hurt somebody I love. So yeah, so there's this wounds, these hooks, no?
Yes. And yeah, I feel like, yes. Um, the first point, talking about censorship and how that played out, it's now in retrospect, it's really important to analyze how all the programs, all the um, blocks to our individual freedoms as human beings, they come from an exploitation of our wounds and of our blind spots. And yeah, I feel like you really explained it very, very clearly, how the fact that society is still structured in a different way, in this example, India versus Europe, of course, then that will play around differently in different countries and to different extents and degrees. But yes, it's really, without any judgment, it's really important, I feel, to acknowledge what type of conditioning rules our society, so that then we can empower oneself to one step out of that conditioning, find the blind spots that still condition us through, of course, the learning system and the education we went through, and even like from our peers and attachments, so that then we can get the necessary this is playing out. I do not longer relate to that, and this is how I'm going to act in integrity. And truly, that to me, it's the biggest beauty of self-growth, is giving you freedom, freedom to think, freedom to feel, freedom to decide, to act according to your own values. It's not, my truth does not need to be equal to your truth or to the society truth or the government truth. I feel that that was a big, big, big thing for me. I have Capricorn more than than the moon as a planet. So and Capricorn has a lot of light as a sign and a lot of power, but also like this shadow of the Capricorn is really sometimes not questioning authority, uh, hierarchy, um, kind of like you have this steadiness, this focus on your goal, on your prize, and if you do not take the heart into consideration, you can be sidetracked by your own willingness to just see one way, which is the normal way, which is the steady way that you know will get you to that prize. But what are you willing to compromise to get there? And it was a really humbling experience for me, which I was in, and I feel it's important actually to share that. So to me, it was a was a hard one to understand this, because I was completely sidetracked with the program and the COVID situation, the medical treatment that was advocated. I was in the system, and I was completely blindsided. And what I feel like the hooks of of um, of my case, they stemmed from um, this ambition of mine. It was a very Capricornian toxic trait there. They came from that one single-mindedness, that this steadiness, this I need to focus on what's important. And to me, I really had a big, big, big respect from hierarchy and a big trust in the government. So to me, was like no question there, no need to lose my time with searching that. So yeah, it's really, really what coming from that place, what I feel is really important for every single human being walking this earth right now is to empower oneself, to really question things, to really think and feel clearly, to connect back to that curiosity, to that innate um, essence of just connecting to your own truth and not perceiving others' truth as your own, because most likely it won't be like that. So yeah, I feel that that's what I
It's
needed
that
to.
deep conditioning, no, that is so it was so interesting to see from you when you first came to India and I started to talk. I don't usually do it the first time, but then it became very quickly quite clear that we do have a different opinion about how the world works. And I'm pretty sure you thought I was cuckoo, the way you
I
looked
did.
at me.
I was. I remember because we came really from different. We were in different. We saw the world in different under
I'm
different
also
lenses.
older than you. I'm older by a few years.
Mm-hmm.
How many years older than you am I?
I'm 27.
I'm
27.
52. That makes, okay, people can calculate. So
30
it's also
something.
like, like you also forget that I often tell you that you also forget that I'm older than you. So I have also made different process, When I was your age, I was also different. Actually, when I was your age, I had a very, I saw things like in retrospect pretty clearly in my teens and in my childhood. I've always been an observer. So, and I'm a rebel. So I didn't just buy what was being told to me. So I always connected the dots, and I had a very good critical mind.
Mhm.
And then I was a bit of an outsider. I wasn't fitting in properly. And then starting hotel management school, I fitted in and I wanted to fit in so badly. And I met my now ex-husband and the group around that, and I fitted in beautifully, but only if I was in a certain way, or which was also part of me, but I have the extroverted side as well, but I was living that exclusively and I stopped questioning things. So I wanted to emigrate. I wanted to make a career. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to have a good life. So I forgot conveniently everything that throughout my teens were making me like, but this doesn't add up. Or this is weird. Or this is funny. Then I also started to take the anti-baby pill, which before I would never take because I was aware of the hormonal influence it has. And I was aware that this is an agenda. It is part of an agenda. So I just wanted to have no issues with my period because I was on this thing. So that lasted from my early, like 22 till in my beginning of the 30s when my body just couldn't take it anymore because I was living a lie. I wasn't living my truth. So my body is actually my biggest ally because my body played up and I had a burnout, and this was the biggest blessing in disguise because that actually made me think deeper. I was going withdrawing and I was having time to contemplate again and then reconnect. It took another health crisis later on to truly reconnect and then connecting the dots again. So you sometimes forget that I'm older than you as well, and I think it's natural that in the 20s, especially because you're also not a child that fitted in.
No.
Exactly. And when you're not fitting in, I feel it is also that at a certain stage in life, the chances are high that you actually see things for what they are. But there's also this trap of when you have an opportunity to fit in, that you take it.
Oh, yes.
Or you, like when you touched on your mind before, because your mind is a very powerful tool. You're very strong in your mind. You're very intelligent. Your IQ is very high. So you're not so good at other things. So you focus, like you're not thinking, okay, I'll invest some energy in learning something that I need so much more energy for. No, you're investing it all in here because that's your strongest tool. Which is logical, which is understandable. So we set on the horse in the race that has the highest chance to win, and we groom it and we train it and we invest time, money, and love in that, right? I didn't fit in when I was a child. I was a total outsider. So when I got the opportunity to fit in, I took it,
Same as me.
Told myself.
Yes. And it's curious because your timeline, it's similar to mine. And I actually drawing again back in astrology, and even the thresholds we need to pass as we evolve and grow. I feel, and I've read to it before, that during our 20s we are experimenting different egos, different
Yeah.
personas. And then when Saturn hits, so later stage, when we step onto the threshold of 30s, we are invited to step into our maturity, and we are invited to ascertain for the first time, okay, now that you experiment in different egos, are you going to continue with your ego, or are you going to step out and um and find your sovereignty and really.
That's it. Sorry if I'm interrupting, but it's exactly it. We all get signals, we all get signs, especially when the Saturn comes return or any kind of returns, any kind of birth chart, like it doesn't matter. Each and every individual gets those moments, those experiences in life, which are a wake-up call, and we either take the opportunity or we don't. And if we do not take it, it comes back with a vengeance later because it will come back again. First it's a little nudge and eventually it's a big slap,
Yep. And I also feel that it's important to say that usually it's the path of more resistance.
Yeah,
And we even touch upon that when you want to grow and like exceed to higher levels of consciousness, that there will be more resistance, more
Mhm.
trials, more challenges. It's the threshold that one needs, it's like a quantum leap that you need to give. You're already stretching your wings, you're already in the being, you're already connecting to something higher, yet the threshold was not yet surpassed. And so it's like the energy is already in another level, but your body is not yet your physical vessel, no. And so there's a really literally a leap of faith that one needs to give to
Yeah.
accept, to then access that higher level of consciousness or energetic.
Hero's journey. The
Mm-hmm.
hero's
Yes.
journey.
Yes, reverting back to Joseph Campbell. Mm-hmm.
Yes. But you know, the thing is that with this astrological, or it's not just astrological, with the signs that we get in life, when I work with my clients, you know, like, or it doesn't matter if it's my clients or people that I know, there's certain things that I'm going through in life, which for somebody else is peanuts. It just doesn't touch them. It's not what they were born to solve. And some other people I find, no, not anymore, because I am aware of it now, but I used to think, oh, there's nothing, you know. So we also go into this, what is hard for me might be super easy for you, and vice versa, because we have different lessons to learn in this life. So the whole thing of, I don't have children, I don't have children, I'm not married anymore, and that actually happened in my Saturn return, my first one, when I was 28. My ex-husband, I mean now ex-husband, my then husband, he left me, and my whole world crashed, and I was for a very long time in the victim, and my whole, it wasn't just my husband, because we emigrated together, we had a dream. It was the professional side, because we had projects together, and it was the emotional side that I had a total crash. But it was the biggest blessing. I do not think that my ex-husband and I would really have helped each other evolve after those 5 years that we spent together. We were married, so it was necessary to happen. So afterwards, and that's actually something that you said to me, if I had children, I would decompose, because when the motherly element comes in, you say it, because
Yes,
it's
it's
really like it's quite spot on.
yes, Nadia really, she wears her heart on her sleeve, and people that she loves, like she nurtures and she cares. She's like this mama hen, taking care and making sure that you blossom, you nurture. But suddenly, when that bond, especially with children, which is like this first like this experience of unconditional love, which is overwhelming for a lot of women. So I feel that if that were to happen in this lifetime for Nadia, it would engulf all of her existence. Suddenly, the children would be, you know, her everything. Her, she would give up every single other attachment and other mission in life. And I feel very strongly that um, part of Nadia's purpose in this life is really, really making sure that people align with their soul projects, with their purpose in life. I really do feel it's a spiritual gift that Nadia is here to bless us with and serve humanity. And so if she would have had this opportunity to be a mom materialize in this
Mm.
lifetime, that would be an obstacle to her spiritual mission. I really felt strongly, and it was, I remember why it came to me so clearly and so vividly. It was because her Pon family, and she has like a heart that can fill up a whole town. So her Pon family takes up so much space, energy, devotion, love, and care.
My animals. I don't think that everybody understands the pole
Ah,
family.
yes, yes, animals. So
My
it's the
animals, my
whole,
cats and my dogs and my baby.
yes, it's like a beautiful. bond, which also, it's then I came to understand that it's a balance. It also gives her so much joy and love and everything, but it really takes a lot of space, energy, commitment, devotion.
Consumes me at times, yes.
It consumes you. And so, um, if you were to have like children, it would be the same or even intensify a notch, and that would completely distract you, or like you would put the spiritual mission for second plan. I have no doubt whatsoever, because also the love, it's your natural language, it's what you feel safe in, it's what nurtures you from within. And
It consumes me, but doesn't mean that it doesn't that this is the case for everybody. It's just my personal case. And actually also it's when I went through this analysis, you know, like do the puzzle work myself with astrology and different planets, it's actually very clear that if I had children that would block in this lifetime, that would block my evolution. Having said that, I do connect very deeply with mothers. I resonate with mothers. I do feel mothers. I do feel their joys and their struggles. I do feel that a lot. So I really resonate with mothers, and it's through that. And I'm sure that in other lifetimes I had kids. I know that for sure. I feel very strongly about having children because children are our future. Children are our future. Children is like when we are mothers or the whole society, because to raise a child, it takes a village. So for the society to actually, that's the next generation that takes it on. And there, this is, I'm going a bit off topic, but that's what I feel is, you know, why do we have to go to these extremes? There's some women, mostly women, I think the men are a bit more detached there, but there's something that I'm a woman who is really okay and actually happy about the fact with my own personal circumstances that I do not have human children. At the same time, I feel very strongly how important children are. So I feel we separate that. It's either the mother brigade or it's the ones to totally deny that. The mothers, the physical mothers need us non-mothers, you know, it's like it's a together. This is our next generation, but we are not worth more or less because we are physical mothers or not. And this separation is to me quite, it feels very strange because I feel very motherly not being a mother. So this is, and it's also a certain lifetime, a certain chapter. And I, like you say, I probably didn't have children, or it's definitely better for me in this lifetime to not have physical children because it would have really impacted me a lot. And I probably wasn't ready or not strong enough to handle it all. So I feel this is a very, you know, like everybody's life path is complementing in a way, you know? So not everybody needs to have children, especially not considering the overpopulation of the world. But at the same time, you know, if those who don't have children, why be against children? I just don't like this over idealization is just mothers are good and then the other ones or mothers are not good. This person chooses the motherhood, the other one not. And there's a big pain in women about, you know, this career versus children and everything. But that's another topic altogether. Just what I basically wanted to say is that, you know, there's not just one path.
No, and I feel like from the evolutionarity, perspective, what our soul wants, usually, mostly, not always, um, not always is the same as our egoic mind wants or society wants. It's very important to understand that we can experience grief and even pain because we really feel that there was not an opportunity to be a mom and do actually honor those feelings coming up and understand, well, it's not for me, but also having the perspective and like the big lens to kind of like scan out and understand, oh, but actually from the evolutionary perspective of my soul, and I feel very strong this is a beautiful gift that evolutionary astrology give us,
Yes.
is to understand that the fact that I am not a mom in this lifetime does not mean that I'm worth more or less, or I'm off track or on track. No, like everything is 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 happening for us according to a higher plan. And the most important thing is really connecting to that soul essence and to kind of like starts to decoding the
Yes.
signs that it gives us. And
And that gives so much inner peace when
mm,
you realize that when you realize and when you start to understand, and probably realization comes later, but when you start to understand what you're born for, what your actual purpose in life is, and everybody's purpose is different, and we are puzzled, so we need everything. It's not just everything of the same. And then we also, how do we all got, God gave a gift to all of us. We all got a God-given gift, and that might not be what we want it to be. So it's also about this. That's what I love about, we started with astrology. Let's wrap it up with astrology. It's really beautiful, the astrological lineages, like this evolutionary astrology that does not predictive astrology as such, but it's like the soul purpose. It's about the soul purpose of who are we and what is the reason. That's how I see it. What is the reason why we were born? And then to actually find out that this is my soul purpose makes one's life so much more meaningful and makes you more willing to also work on yourself and to explains many things as well.
definitely. Definitely. Yes, I feel it's a big, big gift for humanity to start to really connect to soul essence. And yeah, a bit just to really finish, I really feel another one of your gift. It's not only that you connect to mothers, because I'm 100% sure that you are very intuitive around children, and you know things that only through having connected that with other life you could know this life. But I feel that you're a catalyzer for hearts. So this actually happened to me. When we met, I had the closed heart, and I even feel that to some extent it's still closed. And by working with you, I started to feel my heart kind of like opening up. And it's a continuing journey, especially because with the matters of the heart, I feel really one needs to feel safe in order to open it. It's not a conscious decision, and it's step by step. And I really feel it's one of your gifts is because you have such an open heart. um you make it so that it's safe for the other being to kind of like start to open up or just connect to the heart to in the first degree, in the first level. And yeah, this is actually something that I really wanted to share, because it was my feedback, and what I understood, it really changed for me, this connectedness to the heart.
Thank you.
Anyways, we are going to wrap up for today, because yeah, it's already 1 hour and something. So I really hope that you enjoyed our conversation, our exploration through these realms.
Always, it's a gift.
Exactly. And we will see you next week. You can see Nadia in her offerings, which I will post on the downward box.
Namaste. Have a lovely week. We meet again
Namaste.
coming Sunday.